My name is Dave Hollenbach, the host of From Embers to Excellence, a podcast that explores the many facets of leadership from the perspectives of some amazing people. We discuss the triumphs and failures that have shaped our lives and our leadership philosophies. I've found that it isn't whether we fail that defines us, but when we do fail, how we respond. Leaders dust off the ashes and use their failures as fuel to work harder and as lessons to come back wiser and stronger, more resilient, more determined, and more committed to excellence. Today I'm talking with retired Battalion Chief Joe Washington. He spent 34 years in the fire service, four of those being a firefighter in the Air Force, and 30 with Orange County Fire Rescue. He retired a couple of years ago, July 1st, 2018. And you told me that your fire service career began with the Air Force. And I'm wondering, did you have any aspirations to do firefighting before you joined the Air Force?
Not really. I was going to go in law enforcement, but then I started working at Disney World. As a matter of fact, I was a lifeguard at Disney World, so that's where I got my first experience in life safety, CPR and all that type of stuff. I was what they call the recreation host. I just had to get away from Orlando, and the Air Force was the quickest way out. and I joined the fire department. Firefighting was the fastest I can get in within that time period, which was in 1982. I was 22 years old.
Were you born in Central Florida?
Born and raised in here in Orlando. Seen Orlando go from orange groves and to Disney World. I seen I drive. I grew up in Tangelo Park. In fact, my mother still lives in my childhood home. She's 93. I think I was in this like second grade. We moved from Church Street to Tangelo back in the 60s.
You were living over there on Church Street in downtown Orlando?
That church in Tampa.
No kidding.
And the house that house has been torn down. There's nothing there now. I think it's an empty lot. Yeah, that was back then. That was the Tangerine Bowl,
Yeah.
and the Orlando Panthers. They had a football team called Orlando Panthers. In fact, when we moved to Tangelo, that was kind of like a nice neighborhood from the typical African American communities that was in Orlando, like Richmond Heights, Washington Shores, all that type of stuff. So, but Tangelo was further out. You had to drive out to get there. So a lot of the Orlando Panthers football players stayed in Tangelo. But it was cool growing up here.
You said you had to get out of Orlando.
I
Did you
was
get
a young man. I had a son when I was 19 years old. I was scheduled to go to FAMU, Florida A&M. One of my mentors in Tangelo Park, his name is Robert Reed. He mentored me and he had me ready to go to FAMU on an art scholarship in track. I was pretty fast. I got my high school girlfriend pregnant, and my mom said I had to stay home and take care of the kid. So that's why I got the job at Disney World in 1978. And then things didn't work out there, so I had to get out of Orlando. So all my friends and my brothers and everybody was in that military. The ones that were successful, the other ones was, just bad. I'm a preacher's kid, so my dad was a preacher, and so he kind of gave me my foundation of do the right thing for the right reason. Don't never trust everybody for what their word is. He taught me to be the man that I am, really. And my mother was just a hard worker. She cleaned houses, and then they built Disney World, and she was a housekeeper at Disney for years. In fact, she got stock, and she get tickets and everything to go to Disney right now. That's kind of the childhood that I came from. So it was tough, but it was fun at the same time. So when I say I had to get out of Orlando to stay from keeping the falling in the traps of some of the other kids in the community, I joined the Air Force and became a firefighter. And before that, I had tried to become a OPD. Robert Reed tried to hook me up with Orlando Police Department, but I knew nothing of the fire department other than, we used to visit the fire department out there in Tangelo 52. Matter of fact, it was probably district days back then, well, it was district days. That's pretty much my childhood, though. It was fun. And then the Air Force was even a greater experience. The day I got off the recruitment bus in 1982, and I know this subject is on leadership, and I think I was always meant to be a leader because everything when I played football and sports and everything, I was always the captain and things of that sort. So when I went in the military, the as soon as we got off the bus and they line you up and all the TIs, the training instructors are in your face yelling at you, hey boy, what you doing here, all that kind of crap. And me just being the person that I was from and where I was from, I'm like, hey, sir, excuse me, you need to back up. You're too close. You're in my space. you know, oh, you're a smart ass. I said, no, sir, I'm not a smart ass, but where I'm from, when people are that close to you, either they want to do something to you, or we, it's not necessary for you to be that close. They backed up and they moved on to the next guy. And then when we got to the barracks where they checked in, they called me in the office and they say, boom, you're a squad leader. We want you to be a squad leader. I was the oldest in because I went in kind of late. Most of the kids were 19, 20. I was 22. They made me a squad leader, and then even when at my first assignment, I got promoted below the zone, and then I went to England and they put me in charge of the alarm room where you dispatch when the planes are coming in emergency and hot and stuff like that. You have to dispatch the fire department. So I know what trucks. I knew every aircraft in the aircraft. They have a TO for that, So it was pretty cool.
Tell me about your siblings.
My siblings. Well, I'm the fifth of seven kids, and my mother. Every one of us are successful. I have one brother, my oldest brother. He's a architectural engineer. He works for Tico Gas. He designs the gas system, and he learned that craft. He was in the Army, and he was a draftsman. Well, they had the GI Bill, and he took a class to be a draftsman, and he started at Tico. He's been there over 40 years.
Wow.
It was People's Gas at first. Then I got another brother. He lives in Lakeland. He was a Navy guy, and he's retired. He's been all over the place. He stayed Navy most of the time, and then he got out. He managed restaurants and that type of stuff. My youngest brother, he works for CXX, the railroad right now, and he's getting ready to retire. He's an Army guy. My oldest brother and him are Army, and I'm the Air Force guy. But then I got three sisters. Two of them are retired school teachers. My oldest sister, Cheryl, she's married to, I don't know if you know Bobby Scott, BJ. He was an Orange County firefighter, one of the first black firefighters worked for the city of Orlando. I'll tell you about him later on. I met him at Edenville when I got out of the Air Force. I was a firefighter at Edenville first, but that's another whole story. So, but anyway, she's retired from Orange County Public Schools, and then my sister Katie is retired from Miami-Dade Public Schools, and then my youngest sister, she's married to a photographer. She really never hardly really had to work, but so she married into a good husband. I'll put it that way. She was a housewife most of the time.
Cool.
So, but that's pretty much all my siblings. So all of us are successful. And like I said, I'm the fifth of seven, fifth of seven. Yeah.
Your father was a pastor. I'm guessing uh, the church was probably nearby Tangelo Park,
No,
or
my father was what they call an AME. He was an AME preacher, and they have regions, and he didn't stay at churches long. They would, move him around. And most of the time, the longest church I think we were at was in Webster, Florida. But he had a church in St. Augustine, Titusville, Mims, Coleman, Bushnell, Micanopy, Florida, Evanston, Florida, by Gainesville. I mean, we were everywhere. And every Sunday, all the way until I got 14 years old, we had to go to church. And we would load all the kids up in the car and go to church. Then my brothers got old enough to drive, he would put us in separate cars. We drive two cars because there was seven of us, and the kids got to go home and mom and dad stayed for the business part of the church. But yeah, yeah, I'm a PK,
PK?
preacher's kid.
Oh,
And they say PKs are pretty bad, but my brother's Chief Graham, Chief Laurent Graham, right? So
hmm
his dad was an AME preacher as well down south. So it's a big deal. If you did your history on the AME church, you'll be educated. We were kind of the laid back ministry type instead of Pentecostal. They're more calm.
what does AME stand for?
African Methodist Episcopal.
I'm just curious. How did your father end up being a preacher?
I have no idea. He was a preacher when I was born.
Oh,
So
okay.
I know his father in ministry. It's a church over off of Columbia in Orlando, Columbia and Bruton Boulevard over there. That's the church he came out of as a minister, as a young minister, and then a preacher named Reverend L. Johnson was his person to bring him into the ministry. Like I said, I got four other siblings before me, so he was already a preacher. He was a preacher for 50 years, and I never forget when my dad passed. It was in 1993. I was at Carl Holmes Executive Development Institute of Tallahassee, FAMU, learning to be an executive in the fire service, and I was still a firefighter because as a firefighter you couldn't get into the EDI program up at Emmitsburg. So it was tough. So they started the Black Firefighters started this thing. So as long as I was up there, and I got the call that my father passed, and he was in a nursing home with Alzheimer's, and the same week I got promoted to staff lieutenant. And I had just took the test for what they called a performance-based interview. It was something new. You got when I started with Orange County Fire, you got to remember it was only like 7, 8 years old. I started June 13, 1988. Orange County Fire Rescue was established in 1981.
hmm
So it was like real news, so they didn't know how to promote people. I mean, it wasn't any real structure there yet. They were going off of each little district and how they operated over there. And it was, just chaos. They gave this performance-based interview test, and that's how I got promoted to staff lieutenant. Me and about 5 other people. They did lieutenants, captains, and things of that sort. But it was part of their progression, in terms of diversifying the department, making administration division, and things of that sort. Because as long as they had operations, they think a lot of people think that's just the backbone of that's the end result of a lot of work that goes on, in an organization like a fire department. That's to me that's the easy part, and you learned that when you came to headquarters. So but
Now,
at 4.5 years, I was put at headquarters.
so you did 4 years in the Air Force. When you got out of the Air Force, what rank did you hold?
I was a E4, a senior airman.
I would say, what bases did you were you stationed at?
I primarily did two bases. If you count basic training, I went to San Antonio, Texas, And then I left San Antonio, Texas, and went to Chanute Air Force Base, which is in Rantoul, Illinois. They probably closed it down by now. This was in the 80s, in 1982. And then I left there and went to McConnell Air Force Base, Wichita, Kansas. They had the aircraft there was F4s and the KC-135, which is a refueling wing, you know, and they had B-52s, and then Boeing was right across the flight line. So the Air Force was on this side, and Boeing, where they build planes, was on the other side, you know. So when like a B-52 or any aircraft had issues and it's a Boeing aircraft, they could bring them there to get them serviced and stuff like that.
For those people listening that aren't familiar with what Eatonville is the oldest oldest established Black community in the state of Florida.
And it goes back and forth about a debate in America.
Because what
And I
is
think
the
the sign
other?
says America.
Yeah, but there's another community because there's another
Yeah,
one that they think is that I've heard is the oldest community. But growing up, I I was told or taught that it was Eatonville because I grew
Eatonville.
up. Yeah, I grew up. I don't know, a mile from Eatonville, right over there
Oh,
by
okay.
Station 41.
Oh, okay. That's about 2 miles because that was when I worked at 41. That was in our first due.
Yeah,
And as a matter of fact, Edenville is how I became a Orange County firefighter.
and so
Um,
that's where I wanted to go with that. Can you talk a little
mhm.
bit about your time with Eatonville Fire Department?
Yeah, Edenville, like I say, when I got out of the military, I had only crash experience. So because I left Disney World as a lifeguard, I got my job back as a lifeguard at Walt Disney World. I got to keep my seniority and everything. They put me on military leave, so I had that job when I got out of the military, and I wanted to explore about being a firefighter here. I went to minimum standards. So I went out to the fire college. That's when I had to do 200 some hours of minimum standards. And part of that, I met some firefighters over that worked at Edenville, and they got me hired. The guy, Bill Griffin, he's a retired Orlando firefighter. Most of the only firefighters that you really knew was Orlando. And I didn't know, I don't know if you ever heard of Andy Mitchell. And Andy Mitchell was like the first Black firefighter for the Orange County. And he was a firefighter that lived in Tangelo Park. And Mr. Only, I don't know if you know Tom Only, he lived in Tangelo Park. I knew they were firefighters, but I didn't know until after I got out of the Air Force where I really paid any attention to them, where I gave them energy. The fire service had always been around me, but when I worked at Edenville, Orange County, they kind of getting ready to dissolve Edenville's fire department, and Orange County was going to take it over. Chief Huck Wheatgraff, was on the project of bringing everybody who worked at Orange County at Edenville onto or Orange County. A bunch of these cats worked over there. It was like, but it was only two people on the unit, and you got to drive the fire truck and everything. So once I got my minimum standards, but everybody over there, they gave a job in Orange County. And then at the end, when everything's about to go into effect, Eville backed out. But guess what? I had a job with Orange County. All of us did.
Wow.
And then right after I got that, then the city of Orlando tried to hire me. Reedy Creek tried to hire me. Everybody trying to get you, but I wouldn't. Some of the cats left and went to those other municipalities, but I stayed with Orange County. Me and Joe were, I think, the only two that really stayed with Orange County. The rest of them went to Maitland, Orlando, places like that. Seminole County, Castleberry, all those places.
Made that transition to Orange County, and you talked about being promoted to a staff lieutenant. You worked your way up. At one point, you were holding the position of fire marshal, which is like an assistant chief position.
Correct.
Um, Now, I, I I feel like I should do a little bit of clarification. I should have done a better job when I introduced you. You and I worked together on several projects. I would consider you to be a very good friend, but that friendship developed from you mentoring me. At that time, I was working a lot on developing the leadership program and your experience with leadership. I believe that you and I have very similar mindsets, very similar philosophies, where, you know, if you have something of value that can help somebody else grow, it's really your responsibility, your obligation to share that with them and help them grow. And that's what you did for me. You shared everything that you had on leadership with me.
Yeah, and that's. Um, I was telling my son last night that I was going to be doing this today, and he said, "So, Dad, what kind of leader are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm a participatory leader. However, that's my leadership style is participatory. I say my responsibility is to make everybody under me better than me. Now, as a my management style is a little participatory, and I could be authoritarian as well when I have to be. I say I'm very seldom a kind of passive person. I'm only going to follow somebody that's going to make me better. So if you're not gonna make me better, I'll listen to you. But I'm not. It's nothing that you could give me. And trust me, everybody got something to give somebody if they would just take the time to evaluate themselves. But just like you say, you and I. That's why me and you kind of. It was easy for me to communicate to you because you're like a sponge. You wanna do the best job that you can, and it's my responsibility to give you the tools to do that without trying to make myself look good or anything like that. There was a philosophy I learned in the executive development program that I was in. There's no limit to what can be accomplished if it doesn't matter who gets the credit. You can accomplish the world. I don't need accolades. I get my accolades when I'm up in heaven. That's my reward. And then there was another statement that they had to say, "All that I am, I owe." Everything that I am, I owe to somebody because somebody taught me to be the person that I am. Starting all the way back to Reverend Washington. My dad. So yeah, that pretty much my leadership style is or philosophy is participatory. I got to make you better, and my management style is a little different though. It's a encompass of them all. you know.
Yeah. There were so many lessons that you taught me, and not in a direct fashion. It was just how detailed you are with with projects that you developed, programs that you developed. I mean, you're very, very humble, very unassuming. You do the work, and it's always phenomenal. Like that was just, and you just like, oh, it's no big deal. But it was always very, very high level. And you and I both know that in the fire service, it's a lot of machismo. People, want to stick their chest out and like, yeah, I did this.
Mm-hmm.
And you were never ever like that. And what you just said about that philosophy that you can accomplish so much more when it doesn't matter who gets the credit.
Right.
And so you were never attention seeking. You just did awesome work.
And that was what was so what kept me so humble, because safety, man, that safety thing, I took that very, very seriously. And when I see people disrespecting the system, like a lot of times I would get challenged, man, like, Joe, you don't miss the field, and I say no, because my responsibility is bigger than just Mr. and Mrs. Smith. To me, I got to make sure you guys go home at the end of the day. And I took that very, very seriously. Man, from Plogger to Fitz, man, I got chewed out so many times about things that other people did, not I did it, because you get hurt. Why did you let that happen on your watch, Joe? So I had to be humble because I needed you to listen to me and follow the policies. And most of the safety policies I wrote are still there right now today. A lot of people don't even know.
Yeah.
Chief Plogger came to the office and just threw a accountability board with the tags and all that stuff on my desk. Put this in the department. TJ Line is going to be your contact. I had to go. I had to make the tags. I had to make the board. I had to do all that stuff. Now they do it all in house. But it started with me going down to the trophy shop to get them to build a little plexiglass board with the stuff on the tags and all that type of stuff. And then I had to write the policy on how to use it. And then TJ get the sign, But he was the chief of operations, But they made me do it, it was good.
Yeah.
Safety officer, safety program, same thing. I want safety captains, safety lieutenants back then. Write the program. Here's some guys going to help you do it, you know. And he did the same thing. The wellness program brought the
Yeah.
book in. Bam, here, make it happen. He gave me Rick Seegers. Here's your guy that's going to help you with it.
Yeah.
And we just put our brains together and put the stuff out there, and bam, you have what you have today. And when
That's
he brought you up there, and I knew you. I worked with your dad. Your dad is a great guy. Probably had saw you when you was a kid, and didn't even really know you was gonna be a firefighter. But those guys over at the office of the fire marshal. They taught me something as well when I was like just a little staff lieutenant trying to write the future of the whole agency the way it is today.
Talk to me a little bit about the people that influenced your career. Maybe they were in the fire service themselves, or maybe even outside of the fire service. But you
Well,
know,
it's a lot of that, but the keys to the actual foundation. Remember me mentioned to you about uh, with Bill Griffin and the city of Orlando, and he was get off of work as a lieutenant at Orlando Fire Department. He would put his computer in the trunk of his car. And when he get to Edenville, he unloads his computer, hook it all up in the fire station. Because Edenville didn't have no computers and none of that stuff. Nobody hardly had computers back then. But that guy right there, he told me, you need to learn this machine. Because this is going to be the future. So that's what made me so savvy with computers and stuff. It started with Bill Griffin. When how I learned to navigate through the interviews and things of that sort, I was a firefighter at Station 41. My lieutenant was Trivet, Jim Trivet. And that's how I met your dad, because the inspectors used to ride out of Station 41. Remember they had a little office building back there where the battalion chief and the inspectors were at. Lieutenant Trivet and Lieutenant Wathan, those two guys, they knew I was smart, because the first shift I got hired with Orange County, and they sent me to 41. I was driving the truck that day, because I drove with them when they responded with us in Edenville. So they knew I knew how to operate a fire truck. They needed a driver that day. And this is, my first shift, I'm driving a fire truck. Nowadays, you got to
yeah,
wait during a year before you could drive a fire truck. So that's why I say the department was new. But those guys sent me, they to this chief named Montez Dioka. I don't know if you ever heard that name.
yes,
Um, he taught me how to navigate through the policies and things of that sort to learn how to do a performance interview and to sell your craft, your resume. And that's how I ended up making that list because nobody thought we was gonna get promoted. Man, I've been on 4.5 years. How am I gonna get promoted to lieutenant? They already got somebody picked for that job, and I got the job. And then another influence was when I got promoted to that job, Chief Floyd, and then most definitely, Chief Fitzgerald was like my. Anytime he would get in a hole or anything like that, and he needed help to somebody to manage the program to get it out of or whatever. It was something like inventory. Our inventory was screwed up one time. Joe, fix the inventory. I came with an inventory tracking system that they still use today. We did take our SCBA shop. I need an SCBA shop. Joe, go to. So me and Fitz, he trusted me, and that's the main thing that um, can really get you successful. When you say it's kind of the fire service sometimes can be a little competitive, is the word I'll say. People say, it's racism or this or that or that. It's just competitiveness. Somebody, the higher you get, the more competitive it becomes, And if you're not confident in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? So I just learned to just do the best job I could and as quick as I could. And you got to trust people. And if everybody thinks they say you're a brother, but are you really a brother? Or why would you jam me up like this?
You mentioned the program that you went to, the executive leadership.
The Carl Holmes Executive Development Institute, and it
And,
was created by Black firefighters back in 91, 92. It
and
started at FAMU.
so I'm not real familiar with the Black Firefighters organization. Is it the black the professional black firefighter, or what is it called?
They call it the IABPFF, International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. It's not a union. Everybody has a responsibility to help bring the next guy up.
So this organization, its main purpose is to really support black firefighters and help them establish themselves and grow within the fire service.
Right, for them to give back to their community. Most of them come from the black community. I mean,
Right.
all over America. It's just that's the way it is, and
Now
it's an international deal.
you and I worked on a recruitment program, and we were working on like community explorer programs. And because really, by and large, the makeup of the fire service in the United States is predominantly white male. And a lot of that is, I mean, in the early days of the fire service, it was because of racial prejudice. Now, as we move into the more recent history of the fire service, there's still prejudice, there's still racism in the fire service. It depends on the department that you're talking about, and maybe even like the area of the country that you're in. But I was just wondering, I've spoken with a couple of other black firefighters. One of them, Dario Donahue. He was one of my first guests, and we discussed that kind of just really to help me understand, but also to help the listeners understand that really have never walked in the shoes of a black man or black woman. I don't know if you feel comfortable talking about it. Maybe some
Well,
of your
it,
experiences.
but it is a black man. It's in every aspect of your life. You know, just period. Anything you do. When I went in the military, it was there. Then I literally had a sergeant make me for real get on the crash truck and scrub it with a toothbrush because I was black. His name was Billy Wayne All Day. I'll never forget him. you know, he really made me do that. And in the military, they give you order, you have to do it, and then complain about it later. And then but so in the fire service, and that's like when I was telling you about how I got promoted on that test, and man, guys call me on affirmative action promotion and things of that sort, that I don't deserve it, and this thing. But God put you in a place for a reason. Somebody, like I say, all that I am, somebody had to take some licks, for me to get where I was. I try not to see color, in that regard, but the policies and things that sometimes we write, sometimes they were a little racist, like when we write the SOPs about braids in your hair and stuff. That's isolating one person really that you're trying to prevent from doing something. So I would always kind of like give my opinion, and in a trustworthy, you could take it with a grain of salt, but I know in the situations where the department was doing some things that may have made a citizen uncomfortable. They had trusted me to send me there to calm Mrs. Smith down, where they had seen some racist stuff. Man, I've seen a lot of racist stuff in the fire service. Man, it's just like I said. They used to call me on affirmative action program. The same guys that I fought with. And I'm like, man, if somebody offered you a $10,000 a year raise, you wouldn't take it. Opportunity for me. And then when they put me in the job, I know I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it 110.
Right.
There's no reason to complain about how I do it. I mean, anybody could do any job with the proper training.
Hmm.
If you got the willing to open your mind up to learn it, it's not like they will put a lot of emphasis on you're not combat rated. Hell, I'm a firefighter. Just by that title alone on combat rated, I probably done seen way more. If I don't seen plane crashes and had to go run in there and put it out. We used to light 20,000 gallons of fuel on fire in a pit, every month. And I had to go in there without an air pack and put the fire out. So that's in the military, so I'm not combat rated. I guarantee you, if I had to get out of this desk and go in there in that fire with you, you'd be glad I'm with you. It's just stuff like that. They institutionalize and try to go back and try to think they fixing it or whatever. Just try to keep it moving forward, man. Don't try not to dwell on the past and just look at each other as human beings, man. It's just like I know when you came to headquarters, you had never been on days before. You the chief's aide. Do you know how important that job is? And I let you know how important that job is, and I also let you know how much power you had as well, and how much kind of influence you can make from that position. Those cats out there riding backwards on the fire truck, or even in the front cab in the seat, didn't have the influence that you had on the agency. And it's my responsibility, like you say, to give you the tools you need to be successful in that job. It's not to try to diminish how you got there. You're there. Now let's all succeed.
Yeah.
Don't try to bring them down because you don't agree with how he got there or whatever.
One of the things that was really, I mean, and I'm still growing with this, but when you and I were working on the recruitment program, man, I was well aware that there's, not a lot of African Americans in the fire service. And a lot of that is because the fire service tends to recruit from within, fathers to son and, uncles to nephew, that, aunts to nieces, that sort of thing. And if you don't have, well, and the other thing is that if an individual doesn't feel as though they're valued as much as the next person, how likely are they going to be to tell their child that this is a great career for you? They'll steer them to something where they could be more successful and experience that. I'm curious what advice you would give to a young black man or young black woman that may be considering a career in the fire service.
I got a lot of them out there right now. That's the one young kid that's up on the billboard on 441. Mr. The HR advisor, I won't call his name, he would bring black kids in there to my office, all the time. And And one thing that, I would always tell them, if you got to let me know that you're serious, because this is serious. This is a serious job. People's life depends on what you're getting ready to do. So if you demonstrate to me that you're serious, I'll be serious with you, and I'll tear down every wall and barrier that I can for you to help you succeed. But it's not easy. I would tell them, don't give up. Don't give up. If you fail the first time, get up, brush yourself off. All of us fail before we succeeded. I don't know anybody that didn't fall at least once. Life is not a bed of roses. You're not born, just float through life. It's easy. You're gonna have setbacks. So just be confident, stay focused, do your research on who you want to work for. A lot of kids, they would take it for granted that you could work for Orange County and you probably could go get a job over at Coy, one of the smaller municipalities, Winter Park. Orange County is a big, 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 big ship, and it turns very, very slow, but people go through it pretty fast. And that what I know, when we used to bring those recruit classes in, we had to come up with a system to fill, because when I was hired, they hired about 28 other people with me. 28, it was a class of 30 or so when I got hired. And when you got big groups going out, you got to have big groups coming in, and then you're growing with station wise the same way. So it's always going to be an open pipeline. But if they got to be serious about the job, and then if they're serious and then they take it serious, just stick with your guns. You can't give up. Don't give up. And that's on anything other than just firefighting. If you got dreams, man, you know, um, go for your dreams. If your situation gets a little difficult, like in my case, I'm 22 years old. I got a little boy, and my mom and I didn't go to college like I was supposed to. You know, I had to go find a way. I didn't give up, and I stumbled on the fire service. Pretty much in the Air Force as a firefighter. That's how I stumbled upon it. And then I stumbled into Orange County called Eville. You know, and when you get an opportunity, just take advantage of the opportunity. God has opened a door for you. He's only going to open that crack for a little while now. So if you don't take advantage of it, he's going to close on you. So that's where you kind of look at it.
I want to pose like a scenario here, hypothetical situation where say you're the fire chief of a large metropolitan fire department, and you've got a very big budget. I don't even want to put a number on it. Just if there was anything that you could do to improve the fire service in the United States, and you're in this very large department that the United States is looking at, you're leading the way, um, and you're making some choices to improve the fire service, beginning with your department. What changes would you like to see implemented in the fire service?
And this was my project when I went to the executive development, the national uh, EDI program, executive development program. I always We got to do a better succession planning. The next man up, just like the military. You got to have, just in football, you got to have second string. They're just as important. The bench is always important as the starters. The fire service don't do a good job on the bench. They're getting better. They're getting better, but it needs to be. And I think you and I were working on a succession plan at one point, weren't we? Yeah,
Yes.
but that is the weakness, and that's why we keep recycling old chiefs. You know, I shouldn't have to go back in the fire service. But if that guy who I've put behind me, to take my spot, he should, if he ever runs into something, he should be able to call me and I give him advice. So I don't need to come back there to work or run a department for you. That's not my goal. But I think if we did a better job of succession planning, that way, you can keep this ship moving. And I know it's a challenge because it's always about staffing, it's about money, and you got union contracts and all that type of stuff, testing, so people, just put barriers and barriers and barriers. But the bottom line, we need to figure it out and have the second teamers ready to go. Because everybody, as well as I know, everybody aren't great leaders, great managers, or great supervisors. Because they it's just how they were taught. And if we do a better job of teaching, that will relieve that and kind of keep good things going, just like what you're doing now.
Since you retired, I know you've had your hands in quite a few different things. Uh, do you care to talk about some of the?
Well, I was, I don't know if it's part of getting promoted. I got a degree. I got a bachelor's degree in business management. That's where I got a lot of my presentation skills and doing the different working with the various Excels and the different programs, tracking budgets and all that type of stuff. But marketing, man, is the best tool I think I got out of going to school is marketing. And so my first little job I had, I was working for this company, 1-800 Board Up. They market to the fire department. They're after a citizen's home is destroyed or they have a bad day, is the way I put it. There's companies that come at the victims to try to to rebuild their homes. And 1-800 Board Up is supposed to be a nice company that comes in. We're not going to rip you off, and most of them they don't do. So I took a job doing that, and part of it was going around to the fire stations because you're going to show up on scene. And by me being a retired chief officer with the largest municipality in the area, a lot of people knew me. So they would let me in on the scene, introduce me to the victims. So it was a pathway to that person. So I did that for a while. I'm still kind of, you know, waiting on that. I'm on hold for a minute with them. But in the meantime, while I was working with them, I went over to the Children's Safety Village because the company has to promote so many community events. One of my little proteges, Lieutenant Afrifa, I know works over there with the Children's Safety Village. So I said that'd be a good charity for them to support. And so I went over there and met the young man. But long story short, the company I was with was going through some growing pains, and Brent needed some help, over there with the Children's Safety Village. So I'm over there now helping him get ready for post COVID because these kids got to come out and the children. I don't know if you know what the Children's Safety Village is, but the Children's Safety Village is it's literally a village where they teach child safety on railroad crossing, gun safety, fire safety. They have a home built out there on the property that has like outlets where they tell you don't do this or hot stuff that you can't touch that. And the public school system brings their kids there for field trips to learn the fire safety, pool safety, drowning. They have a swimming pool on site to teach that. So it's a really nice safety program. And with my safety background, if I could protect firefighters, I could protect little babies. So so I'm out there helping Brent there on a temporary basis, until his thing come back, and then who knows what the future holds for me after that.
I would like to go a little bit deeper into your background as the safety and wellness chief, because a lot of the programs that you worked on, that you developed, served as models for the fire service. And I'm just wondering if there is a particular program that you're most proud of, and maybe one that um, you wish you had done better. And that might be tough
Well, I always
because,
say anything. I'm a perfectionist. The one I'm pretty proud of, and it wasn't just me. I there were some great guys as part of my team. And and especially Chief Seegers. And then my buddy Tony Willis. That guy, he'll move a mountain for me. But most proud program, to be honest with you, is I didn't get to see it to fruition, but it was the cancer, firefighter cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. A lot of people don't know that. You know, I don't believe it was because of Orange County fire. I believe it was more because of the United States Air Force on the protection that we use, just based on the research that I know now on how unprotected I was breathing contaminated jet fuel and foam and that soot coming off of that jet fuel with no air pack on. Who knows what else I got. That cancer research was really, really near and dear to me, and I really wanted it. It came to fruition after they finally passed a law to recognize firefighter cancer, but that was one of the things I wish I could have done quicker. But there was a lot of different programs. I was telling my kids last night about I never forget it when one of the firefighters got hit by a car, and they were laughing at the commercial about move over law. I said I was a part of that move over law when it first came, because the guy got one of our firefighters got hit. If you, as the safety chief, if you feel that you and they, and it's okay that they put the pressure on you to be that guy, to take the responsibility if someone gets hurt, but you got to have the discernment of that to correct it so it won't happen to someone else. How to write the reports, how to change the policy. And that's why, like a lot of post-incident analysis and things of that sort, when the safety chief comes in, you analyzing what everybody's saying, and then you say, okay, this is what we need to fix, just by listening. So, but the safety program is a huge umbrella just by itself. It covered every department in the whole fire department, and everybody had to go through safety some kind of way. It always touched somebody. So managing that and facilitating that program, and again, most of the stuff that they do today is just it didn't even exist when I was promoted back in 2001. To say that that's a always moving target. In other words, it's never finished because it's always something. Just like COVID right now.
one of the things that I try and touch on in every episode is really like lessons learned, something that was profound to you, where maybe you fell flat on your face and it was either sink or swim at that point, and you chose to swim. You dust yourself off. You realize that that didn't kill me. It didn't ruin me. It made my life a little difficult right now, but I'm going to be better for it. And you push forward, and you turn that experience into something good. And I really believe that that's all about mindset. That's mentality of persevering through adversity. And I just I don't know that I've ever asked this question before, but I've thought about it quite a bit. Is African American men and women in the United States have faced adversity that, I don't know. I can't relate to it because I'm white. And I I realize that there's experiences that you've had and some of my peers have had that I just can't relate to. Um, but one thing that I can relate to is persevering through adversity, and to know that I know that you've faced adversity in your life and you've pushed through, and I believe that you're the man that you are because of your upbringing and because of your experiences, and that served me well when you mentored me. So I just am curious, like, you know, you're human. I know you've made mistakes.
Lots of them, lots of them, and some of not even in. As a black man, you're an easy target. So people people who wants to try to, like I say, make a bad day for you. And probably the worst experience I had was when when Chief Droz was first came here, and Chief Plogger had moved me to the office of the fire marshal as the fire marshal. He put me over there to learn. So when Dan Kusick retired, the fire marshal retired, I take his place. I didn't want to go. I don't want to go down there with those people. They bad people. They all got negative attitudes. It's just, well, we need you to bring them in line with the rest of the organization. And so I went, and but those people, they turned on me, and for a moment, I thought the department had turned on me because how they treated me during that period of while I was under investigation. For some things that is like so out of my character, that it's like, come on, y'all gonna try to pin these charges on that guy, you know, and it was an easy battle for them, but I treat everybody fair, man. And and for them not to trust me, the fact that I'm out to harm them, never in a million years would I do anything to harm you. So why would you try to harm me? And and the fire chief, I got put in time out until the cases was resolved and all that type of stuff. And then he gave me recruitment. He said, reestablish this program back in the department. And that was my parachute to keep me from falling fast, and then when Rick retired, they put me back in safety where I pretty much started, you know. And so I got to finish my career there. But my that office of the fire marshal was one of the biggest challenges that I had in my fire service career because no matter how nice you could be to those people, they just looked at the glass half empty all the time, and it was a huge, huge, huge challenge to try to change that culture over there to come in line with the rest of the agency. But I think it's getting there. I don't even know if they're there. I think it's still a few people around that's part of that culture, but uh, that was the worst thing. And because I was a black man, it made it easier for them to say that I did these things. You know what I'm saying? It made them more comfortable. He's a black guy. He's hostile. He talks to us. He does this. But that's not my demeanor. If you know me, why you professionals say, what are you doing here? all we ever hear about Chief Washington is a good thing. If you ask anybody about me in Orange County government, it's always positive, never negative.
Mm-hmm.
So but that was probably about the worst trouble I ever got in my 30-year career. That's right there. But like you say, I got up, brushed myself off. By that time I was getting ready to go and drop anyway, so it wasn't too much damage they could do to me anyway. So.
Now, how did that how did that make you feel, like being targeted like that, and just
Well, and like I say, I knew they were bad people, but I thought I could change it. So what made me feel bad? I don't really tell a lot of people this, but when Chief Droz told me that he was moving me out of that position, how it happened, it 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 kind of you know it was. I felt you could have called me in and told me face to face and tell me why you were doing it. But he didn't know me. He had only been there a few months, so I respected that. And matter of fact, I respected it so much. I went to him face to face and told him, Chief, you could have did that a little different. And that's why he always had the respect that he had for me. Because I mean, I'm a man first. And if and I understood, his role and what he had to do, and based on the allegations, he's got to react. And I honestly believe if he had knew me better, he probably would have did it a little different. But because he was so new, he did it the way he felt comfortable with, and that's understandable. But again, that was one that made me feel a little bad. But I corrected it. And if me and you have a disagreement, some people I can go to and say, "Hey, Dave, I that was wrong. You shouldn't have did that." And then, "Oh, Chief, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that or whatever," and we move on. But some people, just don't do that. But that's all part of being mature and growing up and being an adult.
and this is up to you whether you want to share it or not. I mean, we both know that it was all unfounded, but what do you care telling what accusations were made?
Sexual harassment, hostile work environment, and impersonating a fire official. Now, because I wasn't a certified inspector, they say I'm forcing the inspectors to pass buildings and then making them sign off on it. Because I couldn't sign off on it, and so I was impersonating a fire official, and the hostility was me making them do that. And then one female over there said that I looked at her inappropriately or something. None of it was
Yeah.
yeah, it was all squashed away. Because that's just not me.
Yeah. And I think it was the people that know you, all of them were just like, "Are you freaking kidding me? Like, you're gonna treat this man like that?" Everybody knew it was a bunch of BS, and to give it any credence, uh, I know they got to do what they got to do when accusations are made, but man, what a kick in the gut, to be
Yeah, but
to be the kind of man that you are, and to have carried yourself through your entire career holding these high standards. You have a reputation that is well established, and some knucklehead can make a couple of accusations, and they're gonna they're gonna move you. Kind of.
and that's what I told you earlier. The higher you go, the bigger target you become. And then when you're a black man on top of that, you're an easier target. So you kind of have to walk gingerly. I didn't fraternize a whole lot. I didn't, I don't and today I still don't really socialize with a lot of people, other than, a couple guys. It's a messed up world out there where people are just vindictive and hateful, and just want to see somebody do bad instead of wanting to see them succeed. My thing is I'm gonna succeed. I'm covered by the blood. My father, like I said, I'm a PK. I'm a preacher kid. So my mother, man, my mother is a prayer person. Boy, I know her prayers done saved me many, many times from stuff, that I done got jammed up. I've never been, I was arrested one time, once. I was 14 years old, never forget it. My mom and them gone to church. We home. Me and my little buddy, we gonna ride our bicycle from Tangelo up to the Kmart on OBT and Sand Lake Road. There's a Kmart. And I'm gonna steal some 8-track tapes. I stole the tapes, and my friend, the people, let me check your socks, boy. And my friend ran, and I couldn't run, and I got arrested. My mom them is out of town, and I had to call my aunt. And my aunt came and got me and took me home. She said, "Hey, I ain't gonna whoop you. I ain't gonna do nothing. Your mom not gonna do this." And so my mom them came home, and they didn't even whoop me or anything, and they just said, "I hope you learned your lesson." Because I was stuck in this little room, man, with a concrete bench on, with it's Florida, and they had air conditioning, cold as it get, and I didn't have anything to eat or anything like that. That was a punishment enough, and I never got arrested again. Very seldom got in trouble. At least I didn't get caught, you know. Because I didn't want to go back to jail,
Yeah.
and it was just juvenile, you know.
Yeah.
So trouble wasn't one of my things that I did trouble, but like I say, I was pretty savvy about it.
Before we close this out, is there anything that that you'd like to pass on to the younger generation of firefighters? Even I know there's law enforcement that listens to this, and there's military personnel that listen to this show. You got any advice for young service members, public safety personnel that are
I'm gonna it's a real simple closure. It's just one statement.
all right?
And it's a statement I gave you part of it from that executive development that I went to. Just remember this: all that you are, you are. All that I am, I owe. I live my life totally in the red. As long as you live your life, you owe somebody something, and it's not that you're there because yeah, you put in the work, but somebody made an opportunity for you to do that. So all that I am, I owe. I live my life totally in the red, you know.
all
So
that I am, I
I
owe.
owe.
I will live my
Live my
life in the
life
red.
totally in the red. And I don't know if you remember Roy Gerald's. Roy Gerald's was a Orlando Fire Department battalion chief, a district chief over there, and he was one of the first instructors of that EDI program, and that's what they came up with. I got the book right here somewhere, and that statement is on that book. All that I am, I owe. I live my life totally in the red.
Another thing that I like to ask is, do you have a favorite book that you recommend to people if they ask you?
And believe it or not, it's the art of war. And one of a chief from that, I respected at one time, but we kind of fell apart. I won't say his name, but he taught me that book, and that kind of taught me how to choose my battles. And it's the art of war about battles art. It teaches about simple things as it's easy to defeat you when you're divided.
The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
Yep.
Uh, yeah,
Is that it?
this is it. This is it. Yeah, this is one of the versions that I have because
hmm
there's different translations. I have another.
That teaches you a lot right there. That book right there. Yeah.
Well, Keith, thank you so much for allowing me to interview you. Thank you so much for how you've influenced my life and my career. Um, Thank you for always being there when I've called you, and um, yeah, most importantly, thank you for your continued friendship because I still continue to learn from you, and um, I really appreciate it, and I know that the people that listen to this are gonna walk away a little more enriched, um, and I hope there's some things that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. Um, and I'm sure there is. So.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the opportunity for you to give me to tell my story a little bit. Because and one thing I know, this is documented. So if somebody don't believe it, and everything I told you, I got documentation to support it. There's nothing that I didn't tell you is a lie. So it is true. But you know what? But it's a fun ride, and I still got, like you say, I still got work to do. People look at some people always look up to you for advice. And I'm here for them.
Thank you for listening to this episode of From Embers to Excellence. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on your favorite podcast platform and visit hollenbachleadership.com for additional content. My goal is and always will be to add value to as many people as possible. So if I can be of any assistance to you or someone you know, please connect with me via email or on one of my social media accounts, linked on the homepage of my website. Remember, our failures don't define us unless we let them, and the only true measure of a leader is the success of their team.